Let's take a deep dive into what's happening in the world of AI. Bill Gates, Sam Altman, Jeff Bezos, Cathie Wood, and other big tech players go all in on a small robotics company. Why? It all has to do with a really strong cup of coffee. For a long time, we thought that constructing smart, agile robots would be very, very difficult. But some very recent breakthroughs seem to indicate that we are about to see some lightning-fast developments on the robotic front, prompting one leading AI researcher to say, every machine that moves will be autonomous. We will also take a look at a man who 3 months ago was unemployed, but now stands to make $435 million in a single day, thanks to his contribution to Reddit. A modern rags to riches story. Also, Hollywood director cancels a billion-dollar project because he was, and I quote, shocked by OpenAI's Sora. Plus, remember that movie Terminator 2? He said, I'll be back. And it's back. They're back. So, subscribe for a permanent plus 22 intelligence buff. And let's get started. All right, so we all probably remember the Figure AI robot making coffee. I'll be honest, I thought it was just a little bit weird because the guy places the Keurig cup. He basically sets up the whole environment for him. Then the robot, springs into action, opens this thing up, puts the cup in there, closes it, etc. A lot of people have commented on this, basically saying that this was a very sort of easy demonstration to do because of the Keurig machine, because of how easy it is to operate it. But now we are seeing massive interest in it, huge money flowing into it. And at this point, it does seem like they are one of the leading robotic companies. And they are Figure AI. They're saying there are 10 million unfilled jobs in the United States. 7 million of those are essential roles like warehouses, transportation, retail. And only 6 million people available to fill those open positions. And attrition rates remain high. Key warehouse suppliers predict they will run out of people to hire by 2024. And their goal is to deploy autonomous humanoid workers to support us on a global scale. So it's founded by Brett Adcock, that's him right there, and Figure AI to raise $675 million for human-like robots. And we have quite a few big names that are investing in this company. We have Jeff Bezos, we have Microsoft, we have NVIDIA, and an Amazon affiliate fund. So I guess that's Bezos, Gates, Huang, Bezos. And there are many others. We have Intel's venture capital arm, LG, Samsung. One other name that I'm very familiar with is the ARK Venture Fund. So that's Cathie Wood and her ARK Venture Fund. And another investor in the Figure AI is, of course, OpenAI, which once considered acquiring Figure AI. So it looks like Jeff Bezos, through one of his investment arms, has committed $100 million. Microsoft is doing just under $100 million. NVIDIA and Amazon related fund contributing $50 million. Looks like OpenAI wanted to outright acquire them at some point, but now is investing, $5 million in this case into it. It looks like the company is now valued at around $2 billion. And I believe they secured some sort of a deal with BMW. Looks like in January of this year, Figure announces commercial agreement with BMW Manufacturing to bring general purpose robots into automotive production. So what's sparking this huge investment into the robotics sector? Well, one of the big reasons is that Elon Musk and Tesla and Optimus Prime is seeing some pretty stunning progress. Not too long ago, Elon Musk posted this. This is Optimus strolling around the lab. Now, the picture quality is horrific here, but the things that we're seeing looks like there's some sort of there are X's on the floor that mark out a path, and it seems like the robot is walking through those, as you can see here, basically hitting every one of those points and is able to effectively navigate around the floor. As far as you can tell, this seems to be 1-for-1. So it's not slowed down, it's not sped up. This is kind of a 1-to-1 footage, which would mean, and you can see the people walking in the background, they seem to be in normal motion. And this would imply that just from about a month ago, this robot is getting much, much faster. We don't know exactly how much, but I'll show you in a second why it might be moving 30% faster than 1 month ago. So here's the thing that we saw. I believe this was last month. So this is the Optimus walking around the floor. So you can kind of tell that it seems like it's going a little bit slower. someone did kind of a one-to-one comparison, basically trying to figure out at what speed it's walking. So February 2024 versus December 2023, so maybe like a month or two ago. So the middle footage is the footage from December 2023. And so it looks like maybe what we saw today is about 30% faster than what we've seen. I haven't verified this, so take this with a grain of salt, but you can definitely see that it's moving a little bit faster than the previous footage that we've seen. And of course, we've seen the hand dexterity that it's able to use. So it's got multiple sensors on each and every single finger, allowing it to, gently handle objects such as eggs without breaking them. So here, notice it picks up an egg, it transfers it to the other hand, and is able to place it down without breaking it. So, what we're seeing here is far more complex than most of the other hand dexterity demonstrations that we've seen before. You know how sometimes you want to find something online, but you have no clue what to type in to find it? So I tried this: human hand dexterity size of the earth feel cars and houses. Thankfully, they were able to find it. So human fingers can feel the objects as small as 13 nanometers. That means that if your finger was the size of the earth, you could feel the difference between houses from cars. Kind of mind-blowing to think about that, but it kind of puts it into perspective what kind of technology has to go into these sensors and these robotic fingers to be able to approximate what humans can do. Now, I'm not saying Tesla is anywhere near that. I have no idea. In fact, I wish we had more in-depth papers published by Tesla so we can actually see kind of like exactly what they're working on. And this is where I really want to kind of point out the fact that NVIDIA, especially in the space of like robotics, is doing just a phenomenal job of publishing a lot of incredible research. So this is Robotic Systems Lab, legged robotics at ETH Zurich. So I've used this footage in a couple of different videos that I've shown because it really kind of demonstrates what's possible when we're training robots in these simulations. So NVIDIA has their Isaac Gym, amongst other ones. What they do is they throw these little robots in this kind of simulation that has a lot of the physics, simulated physics of the real world, the friction, momentum, gravity, and what have you. It's able to run at, let's say, 1,000 times the speed of the real world. And so what that allows us to do is to train these robots in a simulation to do various tasks that, and this is an important part, we as humans probably may not even be able to teach it. So for example, would you be able to describe to this robot how to use wheels on its hands to open doors or move boxes? It might be difficult since we've never had to deal with that, right? And so it starts out and it kind of sucks at it, right? But over time, I think they're saying this is the 2000th iteration, right? By that point, it kind of gets pretty good at it. It figures out how to use the wheels and various joints to throw that box inside of a container or open the doors or what have you. While also, of course, being able to navigate obstacles, roll around in the grass, the sand, the leaves, stand upright, etc. So this is the paper, Curiosity-Driven Learning of Joint Locomotion and Manipulation Tasks, Robotic Systems Lab, ETH Zurich, Switzerland. So really fast, let me point out some very interesting things here. So they're saying that learning complex locomotion and manipulation tasks presents significant challenges. So basically getting these robots to move around and handle objects is very difficult. There's this idea of the Moravec's paradox. It's this observation in artificial intelligence and robotics that what seems easy to us is not necessarily so. For example, reasoning requires very little computation, but sensory motor skills and perception skills require enormous computational resources. And we had this idea for a while. Moravec wrote in 1988, "It is comparatively easy to make computers exhibit adult-level performance on intelligence tests or playing checkers." And of course, since then, we've seen, for example, DeepMind create superhuman-level AI at narrow tasks, such as playing chess or playing the game of Go, pretty much beating any human opponent at that game. But Moravec continues, "It's difficult or impossible to give them skills of a 1-year-old when it comes to perception and mobility." So if the AI beats you too many times at the game of chess and you need to build back some of your self-esteem, challenge it to a game of, I don't even know what this is called, baby toy shape sorting game. I would bet on you to win. And so this paper continues. So it's hard to have these robots learn complex locomotion and manipulation tasks. And often it requires extensive engineering of reward functions or curricula to provide meaningful feedback to the reinforcement learning algorithm. Now, keep this idea in mind, this idea of a reward function. What is a reward function? Now, reward functions is how we are rewarded for doing the things that we're supposed to do, like giving a treat to a dog when they sit on command would be a type of reward function. We say sit, the dog sits down, we give it a treat, we repeat that many times. Over time, it learns to sit on command. We humans also have reward functions. For example, nature wants us to procreate. So when we do the thing that leads to us procreating, we get a treat at the end of it. That treat reinforces that behavior, aka reward functions and reinforcement learning. There's a great video on YouTube called Training AI to Play Pokemon with Reinforcement Learning. It's an interesting watch because the person in it tries to write these reward functions that are good enough to get this AI to learn to play Pokemon Red on the old Game Boy, or at least this is like an emulation of it, an emulator. And so one thing that he tries is he creates basically a little program that compares the different screens that the AI is seeing. And whenever the AI manages to get to a new area and the screen is novel, there's a difference between what he has and what he has seen previously, he gets a reward. So basically it's a novelty seeking reward, which works very well for a time until the AI finds a screen where there's a number of characters just walking around. The breeze is blowing, making the plants wave. There's a little creek that changes its design, etc. So the screen constantly changes. And so the AI just stops and just watches that scene for hours and hours and hours and hours. So our novelty seeking reward function works pretty well until the AI finds some, beautiful spot in nature and just spaces out for hours. Which, if this is not ADHD, I don't know what is. By the way, he called this chapter Exploration, Distraction, which again, very apt. Later, he changes the reward function to be basically, we reward the AI every time that it gains a level for one of the Pokemon. I don't remember the details, but it's something like if you have 5 Pokemon, they're all level 10, then you have 50 points. And then every time you increase a level of one of them, that's the reward. That's the attaboy we give it. So basically the goal is to increase the levels of the combined Pokemon. And again, that works pretty well until the AI reaches a particular building that has a PC in it, this little computer in the corner. Then something happens and it starts avoiding that whole building like the plague. The video chapter is called PC Trauma. The AI is traumatized by this PC and no longer wishes to have anything to do with it. What happened? Well, apparently there's a way to store your Pokemon in these boxes. And when you store them, they kind of disappear from your inventory. So if you take a level 12 Pidgey and you put them in a box, that's like losing 12 levels of your combined levels that you have. Now, you didn't lose it, it just stopped showing up in your inventory, but the computer, the AI, sees this as this massive negative thing, this trauma, right? It lost 12 points of reward and it just refuses to go anywhere near that thing. So I'll link this video if you want to see it. It's pretty well done. I really enjoyed it. But the point that these two things illustrate is how difficult it can be to write these reward functions. You try something, right? Let's go back to this paper. It says often requiring extensive engineering of, for example, reward functions or various curricula. So sort of like the lesson plan for teaching the AI to do something. It needs to have some meaningful feedback to the reinforcement learning algorithm. That's basically what we've seen in this video of the Pokemon. It's like, how do we provide it with the right sort of feedback so it learns how to do everything correctly without causing these accidental traumas or having it spaced out in the woods for 5 hours. So getting back to this paper, I think the important takeaway of this is that robots are hard. Robots are hard. They're hard to make. They're hard to train. They're hard to improve for like a million different reasons. But recently, there has been a few breakthroughs that have made it easier, potentially much easier. One is we figured out how to train these robots in simulation. Instead of building real-life expensive robots that have wear and tear, that break down, we just recreate them in these simulations. You notice NVIDIA has a lot of stuff, a lot of tools for this. Things like Isaac Gym, Isaac Sim, Various other ones, they simulate the environment and allow it to run like 1,000 times faster than the real world, allowing us to train these robots faster without wear and tear, without breaking. And those simulations translate to real world results. After learning to open the door in a simulation, they demonstrate the effectiveness of the proposed approach by opening a push door over 15 times in a row without a single failure in a lab environment. And for that second task of package manipulation, the robot robustly grabs the package and drops it into the bin over 5 times in a row. However, in one of the instances, the robot loses grip and the robot loses its grip on the package. Oh no, is that a fail? Not quite. The robot quickly re-grabbed the package and successfully delivered it, meaning that this creates highly dynamic behavior. It's robust, means it's not, well, robotic. If something goes wrong, if something goes not according to plan, they can adapt a little bit. They can react to the situation. Now, this particular paper, we're not really covering the point of the paper. I think it has more to do with dense task rewards and sparse reward settings. We may do a full deep dive in another video. I just wanted to show it because I think they do a great job of explaining how to use the simulation to train these weird robots that don't really look like anything, organically exists on the planet. Just everything about this seems like awesome. But the other big point is that, let's say we take a smart human who's an expert at creating these reward functions for training the robots. So it's a person that knows what they're doing. For some of the simpler tasks, like for example, balancing this little stick by moving this little block left and right, is considered one of the easier tasks to write a reward function for. Basically, you tell it just keep the stick upright, don't let it fall. But then it gets more and more complex up to, for example, this pen spinning trick where you have a robotic hand that spins the pen in its fingers. This, I believe, was before this Eureka paper came out. I don't think anyone has been able to do that before because it's very difficult for us, for humans, to write these reward functions. As you saw with that Pokemon thing, right? We end up traumatizing the AI, giving it ADHD. So that was a kind of a stumbling block, a brick wall that we had to get through before we were able to create robots that were agile and could do things as well as, toddlers can do. So this is NVIDIA and Dr. Jim Fan. That's him right there. And this is, I'm going to say Yuki Zhu. So keep those two names in mind because these two are forming Gear. What is Gear? We'll come back to that in just a second. And I believe the rest of this team is also worked on Minecraft Voyager and the various other AI research that we've covered here. But what is Eureka? With Eureka, we're trying to figure out how to train this shadow hand, as it's called, in a simulation to twirl a pen or pencil in its fingers. The simulation is the Isaac Gym by NVIDIA. And this is kind of what that reward function looks like. Basically, as an example, we might give the AI an attaboy for the various rotations that it does. And so as it's twirling the pen, it's trying to get the attaboy without the penalties. But remember, humans kind of suck at writing these complex reward functions. So the team decided to do this. They decided to instead dump the whole thing on GPT-4, on ChatGPT. They're like, you know what? You do it. You're supposed to be smart, merging AGI and whatnot. If you're so smart, let's see if you can do it. So they gave it the task saying, make the shadow hand spin the pen to a target orientation. So they started with by just having it spin to a target orientation. For example, like this or sideways or whatever. And they gave it the environment code. So basically, it's the environment source code from Isaac Gym about how the whole thing works. They just kind of dump that in there and say, you read it. There's this sort of bit of engineering humor that goes, if somebody asks you how to do something technical, you reply with RTFM, right? And they ask, what's RTFM? And they say it stands for read the manual, RTFM. It's a joke, you see, because you're supposed to figure out what the F stands for. But anyway, so they say to GPT-4, RTFM. And so GPT-4 does all that and creates a reward function. Now it does sampling, so it produces a number of them. There's sort of a selection process, but the point is it outputs a reward function that goes into here, that goes into the GPU accelerated reinforcement learning simulation in the Isaac Gym. And then the reward function, sort of like the results are spit out. And those results are given to GPT-4, basically saying, here's what you suggested, here's how well that worked, try to improve it, and it does. And so there's this kind of loop of it trying various reward functions and trying to come up with better and better solutions. And here, actually, the full prompts, the Eureka prompts that they give ChatGPT, basically, here it is. It's not super complicated. So the initial system prompt is, I'm sure they're not using ChatGPT like the website chat environment, but it's the same underlying thing. And so we tell it, you are a reward engineer trying to write reward functions to solve reinforcement learning tasks as effective as possible. And your goal is to write a reward function for the environment that will help the agent learn the task described in text. And we give it some examples of things to use, how to use the code. So basically some helpful hints and tips about how to do that. And then once it spits out the reward and that gets loaded into the simulation and then comes out with the results, that goes back in here and we say, we did what you said. We track the values of the individual components and all this other stuff. And here's what that came out to. So you kind of paste that information in there. And we say, please carefully analyze the policy feedback and provide a new improved reward function. And here's some, helpful hints for how to do that. And so how well does Eureka do at these tasks? How well does ChatGPT, GPT-4, with that sort of infrastructure, that architecture that was shown, how well does it do? Well, it outperforms humans across all tasks. Are you shocked? But that's not even the most important part. So in conclusion, they say we present Eureka, a universal reward design algorithm powered by coding LLMs, GPT-4. And they're saying that Eureka achieves human-level reward generation on a wide range of robots and tasks. So that's what kind of they mean by universal, right? It's not just good on one thing. It's human-level results on a wide range of various tasks and robots and whatever. By different robots, they mean some of them are humanoid walking things. Some of them are like these dog-looking things. Some of them are just hands or claws that need to open drawers. Some of them, this is like a drone thing with 4 different propulsion things. You can think of it as like a quad helicopter or something, right? Then of course we have the various hands and stuff like that. But this is where it gets really interesting. So Eureka generates novel rewards. What this is basically saying is that as the tasks get harder, more complex, more difficult, they notice that the harder the task is, the less correlated the Eureka rewards. And Eureka realizes much greater gains on high dimensional dexterity environments. What that means is that for hard tasks, Eureka is better than humans. It does harder tasks better. And the ideas that it comes up with, they're novel, they're new. So it comes up with creative ideas that humans are unlikely to come up with. It's creative, original, and better than humans. So to kind of sum everything up that we've talked about before, for a long, long time, we had humans working on physical robots. It's like robots that are made of, whatever, steel, plastic, wires, whatever. And that was kind of, we made a lot of progress over the years and a lot of that effort led to what we have today. But as you saw, it was slow, difficult, expensive. We had a lot of progress, but it still seemed like humanoid robots capable of doing general tasks. That seemed like that was still far, far away. Now we have AI that's working on these sort of simulated robots. So it's training it in simulation, right? It's getting that feedback, it's improving it, it's putting it back. And then when these robots come out of the simulation, like the data is pulled out, well, as you saw, that translates very well into real life physical robots. And so far, all those results seem like they're really, really good. And this combination, the ability for GPT-4 to create something like this, because I would be shocked if GPT 3.5 could do this. Probably not. So literally, I would say that this has only been sort of possible at this level with GPT-4. So this new stuff has only been possible for a year or two. It sounds like GPT-4 was probably trained before it got released, so maybe you could say a little while longer, but this is all brand new. And that's why these companies are so hot in demand, why they're valued at $2 billion, why the biggest funds, the biggest tech players are pouring money into it. It's because 3 years ago, we thought that these robots that are agile and have sort of general intelligence, we thought that was a long way away. Now it's dawning on people that maybe not so much. Maybe they're just around the corner and we should probably be buying up the people with the talent and the abilities to create these things. If you think about the GDP per capita, in other words, how much stuff we produce, how much goods and services we produce on average per person for the amount of population we have, what does this chart look like if we're able to produce inexpensive robots capable of doing a lot of the labor? Kind of goes vertical, right? We're going to be able to produce more stuff regardless of how much of what the population is, of the percentage of the population that is able to work. Kind of changes the game. So we're going to be seeing more from Figure AI. We're probably going to be seeing more from 1X. So this is the founder of 1X. That's another robotic company that OpenAI backed. They're saying that more stuff coming in 4 weeks. Looks like Moravec's paradox might be false, and we just didn't have the data. In other news, Reddit files to go public, the first social media IPO in years. Google recently made a $60 million deal with Reddit, allowing the search giant to train AI models on Reddit's content, on its human posts. Although I'd be curious to know what percentage of Reddit is now written by ChatGPT. But I digress. One person who stands to gain from the Reddit IPO is a man who, only 3 months ago, was unemployed on the streets of San Francisco. His name is Sam Altman, who has invested at least $60 million in Reddit shares and controls 9.2% of voting power at Reddit. So I think I read somewhere it's like $435 million that those shares could be worth at IPO potentially. So that's how much his shares would be worth on the day that Reddit goes public. So from unemployed to $435 million made in one day. Sam Altman with his blue backpack. So when I saw this video with the blue backpack, I was like, okay, I have to do this. I have to connect this to the Reddit IPO somehow. In other news, Tyler Perry puts the $800 million studio expansion on hold because of OpenAI's Sora. He's saying that these AI video generation tools will touch every corner of the industry. So he's saying, I have been watching AI very closely. So he was planning an $800 million expansion, and all of that is currently and indefinitely on hold because of Sora. I hadn't gotten word over the last year or so that this is coming, but had no idea until I saw recently the demonstration of what it's able to do. It's shocking to me. His words, not mine. And he's saying he's worried about the people in the industry. To his mind, AI tech poses an existential risk to the entertainment industry that it can't ignore. There's got to be some sort of regulations in order to protect us. If not, I just don't see how we survive. Now, Yann LeCun, the AI boss at Meta, has talked a little bit about this. He hasn't responded specifically to Sora or the Hollywood thing, but this was in general about this technology, saying the printing press scared a lot of people. Catholic Church, the rulers of the Ottoman Empire who banned it, even this Swiss physician. They all feared the books were too dangerous to be put in the hands of the public. In a way, they were correct. Books weakened their powers by making people smarter and more knowledgeable. Feudalism, autocracy, magical thinking, and rigid religious dogma were eventually displaced by democracy, rationalism, secularism, science, and the Enlightenment. And we are all better for it. When the idea of the printing press arrived in the Ottoman empires, Ottoman intellectuals who were keen on aesthetics enjoyed books written with elegant handwriting and whose ink shined, along with edges that were ornamented with golden gilt and covers that were made with care. Besides, there were many calligraphy artists who copied plenty of books rapidly. All those people could be out of a job. So it sounds like the printing press didn't take hold in the Ottoman Empire, partly because of the revenue hit that the calligraphy artists would take. So one of the points that people have made is that the Ottoman Empire choosing to ban the printing press, or at least it not taking hold there, yes, it protected the jobs of the scribes, of the calligraphy artists. But the argument is that that may have contributed to the fall of the Ottoman Empire. I'm curious what you think about this. Should we shut down AI to preserve all the jobs in Hollywood? What would you do in this case? And finally, they completely remade Terminator 2 with, I think this was Runway ML. I mean, it's AI generated, looks like Runway ML. They're going to be showing it in theaters, I believe. It's fully remade with AI. Why did he turn into a bear? Made entirely with AI. Absolutely phenomenal. Here's the post. Our T2 remake official trailer. Humanity must fight back against the world ruled by ChatGPT. And so it's a parody of Terminator 2, and it's a feature-length film remake created using artificial intelligence. And looks like it's premiering in Hollywood, California on March 6th. Come with us if you want to live. I'll be honest, I am more interested in seeing this than probably most of the stuff that's coming out of Hollywood right now. And what's more, I'm really excited to see what this allows artists to create. And by artists, I mean artists, not massive $800 million studios bent on generating a profit. I'm talking about people with a vision that want to tell a story and now have the tools to pretty much create their own worlds with no limitations of hiring artists or voices or anything like that. If they want to do that, they still can. But if that was the limitation, that limitation is gone. So can't wait to see what they produce. I hope you enjoy that. My name is Wes Roth, and thank you for watching.